I figure if Nazi symbols are coming back, KAPPA's coming back, right? Good morning. Hope everybody's doing good. I almost made it on time today. However, I was up really late. Up right now for you guys on the left is XM Rig mining Raptorium, and on the right you can see the average hash rate, total average hash rate, which has come out to 3.38 kilohash a second for the past, what time do we start? At midnight? So for the past 9-10 hours almost, which would put this at significantly better than other 5800s. If we put it against the 3900X, it beats it. It's about on par with that. Doesn't beat it, right? So it is, and this is not having to overclock or modify anything. We'll be reviewing it though. Pretty good. Because if we compare that to the 5800X, the 5800X is 2.111, 2.1 kilohash a second. And if we compare that to the 5950X, that one was 4,000. So not quite as good as the 5950X, but better than the 5800X and on par with the current standard, which is the 3900 XT. That body only. Let's start off today, as always, with another parable. This is the test of 3. There was once a man, after hearing an unflattering rumor about a friend of Socrates, hurried to the philosopher to spread the gossip. "Hey, Socrates, you wouldn't believe what I've heard about your friend," he said when he found Socrates. "Wait a moment," Socrates told him. "Before you tell me what it is you want to say, let's put it to the test of 3. "The test of 3, repeated the man. "That's right," Socrates said. "Here's the first test. Is it true? Is what you wish to tell me about my friend something you've confirmed to be true? Or is it hearsay that you are now spreading without proof?" The man was a bit embarrassed and replied, "Oh, well, I haven't actually confirmed the story myself. I only just heard it in the marketplace." "I see," said Socrates. "So you were about to tell me something that you weren't sure to be true. You were about to spread information that might be false, huh? Fine, let's see if what you have to say passes the next test. Is it good?" Again, the man blushed and slowly shook his head. "No, it's not. It's actually a bad thing that I heard," the man explained. "That's surprising," said Socrates. "You hurried over to tell me something about a friend of mine that was bad, but might not even be true. Well, let's see if it passes the third test. Is it useful?" The man lowered his gaze and said slowly, "No, I don't think so." "I see. Well, if what you want to tell me is not true, not good, not useful, I suggest you don't tell me at all." There you go. Good morning and welcome everybody to the Crypto Mining Show, your one-stop shop for all cryptocurrency news from the perspective of a cryptocurrency miner. We're sitting here with the BBT coffee cup and some iced coffee in it. I'm your host, Blind Run, And that is my internet persona. I go by Matthew in real life, and today we have lots of fun stuff. Binance accidentally, supposedly, unveils a swastika as their logo and quickly abandons it. I don't know how that got past everything, but pretty funny, hence the title. Bitcoin miner Digital files to raise up to $500 million in equity. Flared gas Bitcoin miner Crusoe Energy raises $350 million in a Series C. The Intel Arc Alchemist GPU lineup will include the DG1 GPU now at the low end, potentially, which we've already seen benchmarks for. And PCIe Gen 5 graphics cards can have power excursions, which is spikes essentially, up to 1800 watts. Then we'll be giving you guys a little bit of info on that. You saw just now the hash rate for the 5800X3D on Raptorium. So we'll discuss that too. Let's go ahead and get into it after a word from today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is Crypto.com. Crypto.com is my go-to centralized exchange for liquidating my crypto assets. With their Crypto.com Visa debit card, I can load up my mined Ethereum to pay for power and other operating costs quickly while earning up to 8% cash back. In addition to the Visa debit card, there are additional fiat options, including wire transfers, to easily receive your profits. Crypto.com also offers additional services, including trading and even staking, to earn additional revenue on your investments. Join 10 million plus users buying and selling 100 plus cryptocurrencies at true cost by using my affiliate link in the description for a $25 funding bonus. Or enter referral code SOAT at sign up for the same bonus. Remember, cryptocurrency investment comes with significant risks, so do your own research. Welcome back, everybody. As you might know, yesterday I drove out to Houston and picked up the Ryzen 7 5800X3D, which is the new chip from AMD that has stacked 3D V-cache, and basically was hoping that it would be one of the best CPUs to mine with out of the box. Now, we will be having a review for this chip a little bit later. We did the live testing last night on twitch.tv/blindrun, and that's where I will do my live testing if you guys are ever interested. It also helps me to have people in chat, essentially over there in live stream, to catch things maybe I don't catch, help me figure some things out, and so on. What you saw at the beginning of the video was it running on Raptorium, and on the right side of the panel was the past 10 hours total hash rate average, which was 3.8 kilohash a second. So if we wanted to calculate that out, I'll let you guys take a look at it here. We entered it into here, and that ends up coming out to, at 12 cents a kilowatt hour, it comes out to about 49 cents a day on the estimated daily return. On the net, you're only looking at, for profits after 12 cents a kilowatt hour, 13 cents a day. Now, if we compared that, of course, to other CPUs, which we can take a look at here, its predecessor, the 5800X, does 2.1 kilohash a second, and you would actually be losing money at basically losing 10 cents a day to mine on the 5800X. The gold standard, though, is the 3900X, which have been going on sale, and that one's at 3.5 kilohash a second, so it's even faster than the 3900X, and that one ends up coming out to 10 cents a day on Raptorium after power. So it does end up being due to, of course, like basically power consumption, etc., being a little bit better after power cost for this particular CPU. So it does seem to do better. It is more expensive, though, at $449. We'll cover all of the details in the review, so make sure that you've hit the like, notification bells, and subscribe button so that you're aware when this goes live for the basically review. We also tested VerisHash, Haven Coin, and Monero as well. So you can look forward to all of those being basically revealed here in the near future. I don't know if I'll be able to get to it today because Thursdays I play Uber driver for the kiddos, and there's a lot of driving to be done today. More time in the car, unfortunately. But today we're going to be talking about next, the PCI Gen 5 graphics cards can have power excursions up to 1800 watts. But ATX 3.0 power supplies can keep your PC running smoothly. Recently, PC World did an interview with Intel's platform power specialist, Stephen Eastman, to talk about the brand new ATX 3.0 power supply standard. The new ATX 3.0 standard brings a lot to the table, such as the latest PCIe Gen 5 12VH power connectors, which will power the future generation graphics cards and other PCIe devices. One of the main things that ATX 3.0 power supplies will be addressing is power excursions, or power spikes, as they are simply put. As per the PCIe SIG, a graphics card has the capability of exceeding its maximum sustained power by 3 times. This is particularly true for the brand new standards and for cards such as NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3090 Ti, which has a TGP rating of 450 watts. This could mean that the card can have spikes up to 1350 watts. There are reports that the upcoming generation of GPUs will require up to 600 watts of power, and that would indicate up to 1800 watt power spikes. These power spikes generally only last 100 microseconds at most, but can lead to disruption in PC crashes. To avoid this from happening, power supplies have been manufactured with enough extra capacitors to prevent the system from sagging power. You're also going to have a pretty significant issue on mining rigs in this particular case, because even if the power supplies that you're purchasing are going to be the ATX 3.0 power supplies, you are still going to have to worry about basically tripping breakers at this point, especially if you have multiple on a rig. Now, keep in mind that is going to be dependent on, like, basically if you're following the 80% rule, which actually might need to be adjusted in this particular case, and then whether you're on 120 or 240 and that sort of thing. Because if you have essentially like a 20 amp 120 setup, you're really only going to be able to go up to 2400 watts, somewhere around there. So it's pretty concerning that even if you ran 2 of these things, even if it's just 100 microseconds, that could be enough on a traditional home plug to go ahead and trip your breaker, in theory. So we got to be really careful with these when we get them for mining. Here's the details coming from the interview. It says, with the new PCIe 5.0 connector and ATX 3.0, Intel and the PCI SIG address what both well, I don't know this one. Emphatically, euphemistically. There we go. I always say euphemistic, not euphemistically. Anyways, call power excursions. You might recognize it by the less sugar-coated term power spike. The PCI SIG has basically outlined the capability of a GPU to exceed the maximum sustained power of the card by 3 times. That means a 600 watt card on a PCIe 5.0 12VH PWR connector is allowed to spike to 1800 watts for 100 microseconds. To help smooth out these extremely short power excursions, a power supply has to be designed with enough extra capacitors to prevent the system from sagging power and possibly crashing the PC. By Intel's estimates, a 300 watt GPU on a properly designed ATX 3.0 could be supported with a 750 watt power supply with 300 watts for the CPU and another 150 watts for the rest of the hardware in the box. If you were to try to adapt an existing ATX 2.0 power supply to run that same 300 watt GPU, you could potentially need a power supply at 1100 watts to support the GPU, CPU, and account for the power excursions Intel believes. This will likely depend on the older PSU design, as well as how often that GPU will make those high power excursions. In an interesting comparison, it is said that a 750 watt power supply based on the ATX 3.0 standard will provide the same output as an older ATX 2.0 standard. This is only for a 300 watt GPU, and as you go up, you definitely require a beefier PSU, but still, even for a GPU requiring 600 watts, you'd potentially require a 600 watt ATX 3.0 PSU, but if you were to adapt the same unit to an ATX 2.0 standard, you will require a higher wattage PSU that's at least 1600 watts or higher to steer clear from the power excursions. Basically, all of your old power supplies for the new generation of NVIDIA GPUs are useless. That's pretty much what it comes down to. You're not going to be able to basically go out, sell all of your 30 series and 20 series cards and just buy the GPUs and plug them into a mining rig with two 1600 watt power supplies and be good to go, because this standard is going to make it pretty much impossible for you to do so. So every single rig build with these new GPUs are, from my perspective, and especially from a mining perspective, you're going to have to upgrade to an ATX 3.0 power supply. And potentially that also means that your traditional setup for miners of basically for GPUs purchasing the server power supplies with breakout boards may not be advised either. Many will balk at retiring their power supply and wonder why excursions matter so much. Aren't power excursions just GPU makers breaking the rules and exceeding power consumption? After all, we'd agree with that outlook. But to limit those extremely short excursions would mean also limiting GPU performance. It's also clear we've been right at the very limit of power supply capabilities for quite some time. Anecdotal reports of the GeForce RTX 3080 and 3080 Ti crashing systems due to transient voltage spikes have been popping up for some time. While the vast majority of gamers were fine, it would appear certain power supplies or system configurations just couldn't handle the same power excursions. Even worse, add-in board makers would know they were exceeding power for microscopic amounts of time, but they really had no idea what the varying design of power supplies could handle. Now these power spikes can be considered as GPU makers breaking the power limits of their own cards, but transient voltage spikes have been seen as an issue on high-end cards for quite some time now, reports PC World. The ATX 3.0 standard will provide an incentive to graphics card AIBs to formalize excursions so that they can once again have boundaries to follow when working on their latest graphics card design. Here's a table of the PCIe, AIC, and PSU power budget used for peak power excursion test cases. And you basically have your AIC power for the PCIe, the CPU continuous power, and then a rest of platform, and then your PSU rated size. So if we go all the way up to 600, you see the 1200 here. The Goldilocks zone seems to be the 1000 to 1200 watt range for the next gen high-end graphics card. So if you're planning to build a new gaming PC with either the 4090 or the 7900 XT, you better make sure your PSU, to get a PSU within the respective wattage range of the ATX 3.0 standard. Currently, several PSU makers such as MSI, Asus, Gigabyte, FSP Group, and Cooler Master have announced their PCIe Gen 5 and ATX 3.0 compliant designs. Now, I did also want to talk about this has been a problem in the past already with these excursions, possibly flipping breakers if you're running them for mining and so on. And where it is really noticeable is actually within specific algorithms that basically utilize the core. Which algorithms would be examples of these? Flux is one, Ravencoin is another. And that's because usually these power spikes are due to basically core usage, not necessarily memory usage to the same extent. This is why when we first saw a lot of people switching over to Flux, there were a lot of complaints of blown power supplies, flipped breakers, and burned power supply units. And this is why I put out a huge warning when we were doing the kind of move over to Flux and testing it, because essentially you had huge problems there. So It's going to be even worse with the 4000 series, potentially with the 7000 series from AMD as well. And it won't be advisable, like I said, to just go ahead and swap out your 3000 series cards for 4000 series cards and utilize the same power supplies. You will need to upgrade to the new ATX 3.0 standard, potentially, for this to be something that you can utilize for mining. It's definitely going to get interesting. I'd like to hear your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below, as well as within, of course, the live chat. Next, we have Intel Arc Alchemist GPU lineup may include the A310 4GB entry-level graphics cards, once again coming from WCCF Tech. Intel's Arc Alchemist A-Series graphics card lineup is now rumored to feature an absolutely low-end graphics card known as the A310. The rumor comes from reliable leaker enthusiast citizen over at Billy, there we go, who reported the lineup a few days ago. Although Intel never launched DG1 officially in the desktop space, the GPU still ended up in the OEM segment with options from a range of AIBs, including ASUS. The DG1 graphics card, being an entry-level design, did find some popularity given its low price and feature set. Based on the new rumor, Intel is expected to release a successor to the DG1 graphics card in the form of the Arc A310 graphics card. The previous rumor already talked about 4 Intel Arc A-Series desktop graphics cards based on the Alchemist DG2 GPUs. If the rumor about the Arc 310 is correct, then this would be the 5th graphics card within the lineup. The A310's name pretty much sums up what this card is: an entry-level and low-power graphics card that will be aimed at the OEM segment. It may be possible that this card could or would only get released in the OEM segment and not see a DIY release like the RX 6400 initially. In terms of specs, the Arc A310 will be a cut-down graphics card sitting below the Arc A380 and the Arc A350. It will utilize the ACM G11 GPU core and feature 4 GB of GDDR6 memory across a 64-bit bus interface. What does this mean for miners? Probably don't want it, right? And it's not going to be good enough unless it's got really, really good power consumption, but you're also talking about only 4 GB of memory on there as well. So as for the core count, it could either retain the 96 EUs of the Arc A350 series or go even lower with just 64 EUs enabled. That will be half the full ACM G11 GPU it is based upon. Performance is said to be slower than the Radeon RX 6400 graphics card. As for the other graphics cards that were detailed last week, the same leaker reports that Intel's Arc A380 will fall between the RTX 3050 and RX 6400 graphics card. The mid-range Arc A580 will fall between the RTX 3060 and RX 6600 graphics cards, while the high-end Arc A750 will be faster than the RTX 3060. Meanwhile, the Arc A770 will end up faster than the RTX 3060 Ti. In select scenarios, the Intel Arc lineup will offer higher performance, such as ray tracing and titles with XeSS support. But aside from that, Intel needs a lot of work to be done on the driver side before they can really compete with NVIDIA and AMD GPUs. Now, we've been talking about this for quite some time, and one of the updates I did see here is that it is possible on the A770 that we get all the way up to a 320-bit bus, and that would be the 16 gigabytes a second of the GDDR6. That could be very enticing for miners. Obviously, the 256-bit bus at 200 watts, super good as well. These could end up being fantastic for mining, but not this lower-end GPU. It's interesting that they are going to be releasing one, potentially. Of course, it is a rumor. I think that most of those would go into potentially those big LAN gaming centers and the internet cafes, as they're popular in the East, maybe like South Korea, Japan, that sort of thing, right? And that's because all they really want to do is play League of Legends and Hearthstone. Anyways, let's talk about flared gas Bitcoin miner Crusoe Energy raises $350 million Series C. The company is also bringing on additional credit facilities of up to $155 million US. Crusoe Energy, the company that pioneered Bitcoin mining by using wasted natural gas as a power source, raised $505 million in a new funding round to expand its operations throughout the US and internationally. The Denver, Colorado-based miner raised $350 million in a Series C equity offering led by climate technology venture capital firm G2 Venture Partners, according to a statement. Crusoe also closed credit facilities expandable up to $155 million with SVB Capital, Spark Fund, and Generate Capital. Quote, the capital provided in this Series C financing unlocks Crusoe's ability to execute on key elements of our vision. Specifically, it enables us to expand and diversify our energy sources, computing workloads, and vertical integration, end quote, said Chase Lockmiller, CEO and co-founder of Crusoe Energy. The company will use the new funds to expand its digital flare mitigation technology across the US and internationally, as well as launch a new cloud computing platform called Crusoe Cloud, where energy-intensive high-performance computing systems will be powered by flare gas and renewable energy sources. Crusoe Cloud will be launched publicly later this year, Lockmiller said. Crusoe, which recently was recognized for its innovative solution to generating energy by the World Bank's Global Gas Flaring Reduction Initiative report, has several mobile sites across the U.S. Crusoe's customers include Devon Energy, Kraken Oil and Gas, Canadian oil firm Enerplus, and others. Notably, Crusoe is reportedly working on a pilot project with Exxon to use flare gas at the energy giant's North Dakota oil wells to power Bitcoin mining operations. In the flaring process, excess natural gas is burned off in the atmosphere as part of oil drilling operations. It has become standard industry practice because of the lack of transportation infrastructure. The process is under environmental scrutiny, however, U.S. President Joe Biden pledged to cut methane emissions from oil and gas operations. Once again, when we talk about this stuff, especially as it pertains to flare gas, I want to remind you guys that the positives to proof of work mining and Bitcoin has a lot less to do with total energy consumption and reduction of energy waste. And I think it's really important when you start getting into environmental discussions with people surrounding Bitcoin to point out that they are A, incentivized to move to more renewable energy sources, and B, they've already proven to reduce energy waste and be a good store of energy. These are the lines of discussion, and hopefully we cover enough on this channel so that you can see when these things are happening and you can have these discussions with people in the sauna, at the water cooler, whatever it is. When they go, well, I heard Bitcoin is bad for the environment, you can start to educate the masses on this sort of thing, right? And I think it's really important. So using flared gas to mine digital assets has emerged as a popular trend among both the crypto mining and energy industries. The process helps energy companies reduce their flaring footprint as a plan to reach net zero emissions by 2050, laid out by the International Energy Agency, IEA. Would require all non-emergency flaring to be eliminated globally by 2030. Meanwhile, crypto miners and data centers, which use tremendous amounts of energy, are capable to source cheap and sustainable energy for their operations. Quote, if you're utilizing energy that's going to just go into waste anyway, you might as well use it, end quote, Valkyrie Chief Investment Officer Stephen McClurg told CoinDesk, adding that he is, quote, a big fan of using flared natural gas when asked if this source of energy is among the best sustainable energy used by miners. Valkyrie launched a Bitcoin miners exchange traded fund earlier this year, which invests 80% of its net assets in miners that derive a minimum of 50% of their profit from Bitcoin mining and primarily use renewable energy. The funding comes at a time when capital markets for crypto miners have somewhat dried up and miners are getting creative in raising capital for their growth, including leveraging their existing mining rigs and mine Bitcoins to secure debt. Quote, this capital will enable Crusoe to deploy digital flare mitigation at greater scale, to use its solution to accelerate renewable energy deployment, and to continue innovating its industry-leading technology, said Ben Kortlang, partner at G2 Venture. Quote, after a deep dive into flare mitigation and modular data center technologies, we concluded that Crusoe is the clear leader in scale, operational excellence, talent, vision, and proven commitment to environmental standards. Crusoe raised $128 million in Series B financing in April last year, led by Valor Equity Partners. The new raise would be among one of the largest funding rounds for a privately held crypto mining company. In February, Compute North, a provider of sustainable infrastructure for cryptocurrency mining, closed a $385 million round that includes an $85 million Series C fundraise and a $300 million debt financing. Another private miner, Gem Mining, raised $200 million in institutional capital in December. Meanwhile, among publicly traded miners, Riot Blockchain filed a prospectus in April for the ongoing sale of up to $500 million in shares, otherwise known as an at-the-market offering. A laundry list of investors joined Crusoe's Series C. Returning investors include Valor Equity Partners, Polychain Capital, Bain Capital Ventures, Winklevoss Capital, and more. Meanwhile, new investors include Inclusive Capital Partners, Tau Capital, Castle Island Ventures, and actor Robert Downey Jr.'s Footprint Coalition Ventures, among others. So lots of investment going into this. Obviously, this is the push that you need, especially if there's going to be a push to have, net zero emissions from flare gas. If you aren't going to be allowed to transport it, right? If you're not going to be allowed to build the infrastructure to transport it and accommodate for it, then you're going to need to get rid of it at the source. And it looks like Bitcoin mining and data centers, basically technology in general, is going to be able to help alleviate a lot of this. Let's talk about Bitcoin miner Bit Digital files to raise up to $500 million in equity. So more miners, very bullish, boys. The proceeds will be used for capital expenditures, buying new mining equipment, and other potential acquisitions. What we're seeing, obviously, the last article is more focused on the flare gas mining, but it did talk about a lot of basically fundraising and basically more investment that's going to go into Bitcoin mining. That's why I say it's definitely looking bullish for miners right now. Bitcoin miner Bit Digital filed a prospectus with the U.S. Securities Exchange Commission for the sale of up to $500 million in equity from time to time, also known as at-the-market offering. We did briefly talk about this in the previous one. But the equity offerings may include ordinary shares, preferred shares, warrants, and units comprised of any combination thereof, according to the filing. The company said the proceeds would be used for general corporate purposes, including capital expenditures, buying new mining equipment, and other potential acquisitions and general working capital. H.C. Wainwright will act as the underwriter if Bit Digital sells ordinary shares and will offer to sell about 181.8 million shares, implying a roughly 241% increase in outstanding shares if all of the 500 million worth of shares are sold. That being said, the prospectus is a shelf registration, meaning there is no present intention to immediately sell all the securities being registered. Bit Digital migrated all of its Bitcoin mining rigs in North America from China last year amid China's sweeping ban of the industry. Almost 40% of its machines have come online in North America as of March 16th. The rest of the miners are awaiting installation in the U.S., are expected to be installed at sites operated by Compute North and/or at new facilities to be operated by DigitHost and BlockFusion in upstate New York this year, the company said in a filing. Bit Digital's offering comes short after one of the largest Bitcoin miners, Riot Blockchain, filed a similar prospectus to sell up to $500 million of shares in an ATM offering, and another miner, Mawson Infrastructure, MIGI, also announced this month it was looking to raise up to $500 million in equity offerings. Bit Digital shares were unchanged after hours, but have fallen about 58% this year compared with Bitcoin's decline of 13%. Now, I also want to point something else out here. We basically know that only 40% of their machines from China have come back online, and they are looking at bringing them back online. We see a continued increase in Bitcoin difficulty. And as smaller miners and so on, it's very important to pay attention to this, because I had been talking about hedging into Bitcoin, Bitcoin miners specifically. But from what I can tell, what we are looking at is there's still going to be easily within the next couple of years is a huge increase, right? Probably double the hash rate on Bitcoin, maybe even more. It's going to be very hard as smaller miners, home miners, etc., to compete with these large companies that are able to get this type of funding through public offerings. And it's a little disappointing, especially I think from a Bitcoin maximalist standpoint, a fundamental standpoint, to see that it is basically being overrun by corporate interests. And that is, to me, just kind of a red flag in general. But on the good side of things, what we can see is because of the institutional investment, because of the corporate influence and so on, you will probably see, of course, cryptocurrency continue to be successful to a certain extent, and definitely looking like we are not going to hit the traditional super cycle lows, meaning we aren't going to go down another 50% if I had to take a guess, just because of the amount of investment that's going on. So Binance unveils and quickly abandons a swastika-like Twitter emoji. We tweeted this yesterday, and obviously it's the title of the show, but says, quote, "We're not sure how that emoji got through several layers of review without anyone noticing," end quote. The world's largest crypto exchange said in a tweet. It wasn't the only cleanup job Wednesday. This is pretty funny. Binance unveiled its new Twitter emoji Wednesday and soon took it down after users pointed out its resemblance to a swastika. The emoji, known as a hash flag in Twitter parlance, shared a resemblance with the Hindu swastika, a sign of good luck, but perhaps chiefly known in the Western world for its infamous appropriation by the Nazi Party. So you can see here in the tweet, something is off about the new Binance logo. Can't put my finger on it. Here's the logo. After responses of shock over the new branding, Binance deleted its tweet with the emoji, as did CEO Changpeng Zhao. In a tweet, the exchange said a different hash flag would roll out immediately. Quote, "Well, that was obviously really embarrassing," end quote, the world's largest crypto exchange tweeted hours after the reveal. Quote, "We're not sure how the emoji got through several layers of review without anyone noticing," the tweet continued. The faux pas, which one tipster pointed out coincided with Adolf Hitler's birthday, isn't the first time Binance has caught flack for tweets perceived as insensitive to the Jewish community. I do want to ask this, though. Why did it coincide with Adolf Hitler's birthday? And do you think it was potentially intentional? Look, obviously they apologized, etc., but you would assume that that went through a ton of hands for review, even as they stated, and it seems hard to just miss it. And then to coincide and be like this coincidence of coinciding with Adolf Hitler's birthday, it's really suspicious, really suspicious. Also, Binance is centralized, so there's that. In November 2017, it announced it would distribute gas tokens by using a banner ad that prominently displayed a six-pointed star, the same shape as the Star of David. Binance deleted that tweet Wednesday amid the swastika emoji fallout. Binance created the emoji with Twitter's hashtag feature. These hash flags display a brand's emoji anytime users tweet that brand's hashtag. In this case, the emoji would appear next to the hashtag Binance or hashtag BNB. Branded hash flags can cost upwards of $1 million. All right, so I don't know how Binance is doing today, but I'm sure it is no fun in that office. Mining profitability is looking a little up today, so that's good. Let's get into it. Today we're supposed to be getting about 0.069 Ethereum, which would equate to 218 US dollars. Yesterday we did 208 US dollars at 0.066, about down 0.001 compared to what was estimated. And that is at an average of 5.21 gigahash with a current hash rate of 5.36 gigahash. On Verus, where's my Verus hash miner? Here we go. Bam. On Verus, we had an increase in hash rate from a 3700X at 4 gigahertz. Thanks for whoever's donating that. And another 38 mega hash increase donation from Bandit. So thanks, guys. Also, I did realize this wallet actually has about 250 Verus coin in there. So I definitely am going to get into the staking here soon and get that staking up and running. What are we earning now per day? 1.2 Verus coin a day. Oh, it's not. Thanks for the donated hash. I was expecting more hash rate or more Verus coin because we were doing about 2 coins a day for a while there. I guess the difficulty is going up. Now, because we've been testing the 5800 X3D and kind of playing around, obviously, with all of that and taking a look at profitability, right now, the most profitable for CPUs that I'm seeing is just doing Monero Ocean and mining that with your CPUs. However, in second, a very close second is Verus hash, and then it just kind of goes downhill from there. If you have power cost above 10 cents a kilowatt hour, pretty much there's no CPU mining that's going to be profitable at this point. So at least from what I can tell. So that's kind of where CPU mining sits at. So even though we do have the 5800 X3D here for testing, and we're going to continue to try to, test new interesting CPUs when they come out like that, it isn't something that I would recommend doing at any given time right now. So let's get into what to mine's calculations for the RTX 3090. After 10 cents a kilowatt hour, Ethereum's at $3.93 a day. And then, of course, we have Cero coming back up at $2.69 a day. Zell hash still on Nice Hash, more profitable than mining Flux directly at $2.76 a day. Compared to if you mined it directly, it would be $2.43 a day. Conflux is $2.50 a day, but my understanding from reports on this is that it is actually more profitable than we may be understanding here. And Conflux recently did release an update about their roadmap. So I think even last night when I checked, Conflux had an update to their GitHub within like 30 seconds. And it looks like they've had plenty of updates. It's kind of interesting what's going on with Conflux. We've covered it on the channel before, but maybe pay attention. Maybe we need to pay attention a little bit more. The only downside to Conflux, just to be clear, is your Radeon cards aren't going to run on it pretty much at all. It's the Octopus algorithm, but your RTX 20 series and 30 series are going to run pretty good on there. Ethereum Classic, $2.35 a day after power. And then we have to scroll down a little bit further to get to the $2.38 a day after power on Ergo. It's more profitable than Ethereum Classic thanks to Ergo's low power consumption right now, but we do have that weird difficulty problem going on with it. Ravencoin at $2.13 a day after power. Let's go ahead and take a look at all of our mining pool stats. We're already on Ravencoin, it looks like, which has a little drop from yesterday down to 3.14 terahash a second. And the difficulty did respond to that as well. Let's look at Bitcoin. Like we talked about, Bitcoin has had an increase in hash rate consistently here recently. It's up to 229 exahash a second. Yesterday was about 228 exahash a second. And obviously with what we're seeing about, some of these companies only have gotten 40% of their hash rate back onto the network since they've moved from China, yet the hash rate's pretty much recovered since the China deal. A lot of that new investment that was coming into the US isn't indicative of full hash power having been moved over from China yet. So I would expect huge increases in Bitcoin difficulty and hash rate over the next year, especially as these companies get funding and their infrastructure gets built out. It's going to make it very hard to be profitable as a smaller miner and compete within Bitcoin mining. If we take a look at Ethereum, it's at 1.07 petahash a second. Yesterday, it did break 1.1 petahash a second for a brief moment, which to my understanding is a new all-time high for hash rate. So I was wrong. I'll say that. I thought that we were going to stick right around 1 petahash a second pretty much until the merge. It looks like some people are getting a little bit more bullish with the delay of Ethereum and throwing more hash rate on the network. It could be that they're coming off other networks, but it doesn't appear to be the case. On Ethereum Classic, we're at 29.66 terahash a second with another little spike here at the end in difficulty. And that is basically, 1 terahash a second up over what it was yesterday. And then let's take a look at Flux. Flux is still right at that 2 mega solutions a second. No real changes. And Ergo. We're at 15.67 terahash a second. Welcome to the low in the hash rate with a slight spike in difficulty. So welcome to Ergo being flip-flopped all the time. Let's talk about mining pool profitability. For the past 90 days, Flex Pool in first, Mining Pool Hub in second, Crazy Pool in third. For the last 60 days, Mining Pool Hub in first, F2 Pool in second, Flex Pool in third. For the last 30 days, Flex Pool in first, F2 Pool in second, Hivon in third. For the last 21 days, Crazy Pool in first, F2 Pool in second, Flex Pool in third. For the last 14 days, Crazy Pool in first, F2 Pool in second, Hivon Pool in third. For the last 7 days, Crazy Pool in first, F2 Pool in second, Hivon Pool in third. For the last 3 days, F2 Pool in first, Hivon in second, Ethermine in third. And for the last day, ZET in first, Flex Pool in second, Nano Pool in third. Hivon's still sitting in fourth. Interesting turn of events with Hivon kind of getting boosted up there. It does make me think I want to go ahead and take another look at Hivon and see if this is actually indicative of being accurate, right? So kind of weird. Not something I would expect from them in general. But yeah. All right. Let's talk about ASIC miner profitability. That Jazz Miner X4 still in first at $105. KD6 has not moved at $92, meaning the KD5 hasn't moved either. And Miner L7 is up about $1 a day on NiceHash compared to yesterday. And if we scroll down to the S19 Pro, it's about $1 a day up compared to yesterday. Are there any sales that we got going on over here? Not really. Everything looks to be the same. Make sure if you're going to purchase from BT Miners, you do it via the link down in the description below so I get a kickback. Let's get into questions and answers. Popping out that chat. Let's do it. Remember, super chats are never required, always appreciated. So definitely let me know. And they first to be read because they're the easiest to read. Next, if you want to ask a question, it will not be answered unless you've tagged at Son of a Tech, which turns the text orange on my screen and makes it easier to catch within the chat. Remember, put it at the beginning of the question. That way, I get it flagged right away. So, Dave Jack says, that's Son of a Tech. Good to see you today, mate. Good to see you in chat, Dave. Thanks for being here. So John English Tech says we did not see that coming at Son of a Tech. And then ACQ says at Son of a Tech 100% intentional. So some people are thinking it's intentional, which is interesting. Let's go ahead and get a poll. Can I do a poll on here? Oh no, I can do a poll on the other one, but not on here, huh? No, here it is. Was the Binance swastika intentional? Bam. I'd like to get a poll going so we know what you guys think. Colton says, at Tech, looking into crypto taxes, would getting once a month make it simpler since you have to claim the crypto when it hits your wallet? Is there a good way of setting up payouts? No, just use some tracking software like Bitcoin Tax, etc. That being said, the reason you don't want to do it monthly is that you really want to be reporting. You could end up getting yourself into owing more at that point. You would really want to be reporting as often as possible because you will be reporting at that price at that time, right? So like, for example, this week we have Ethereum up, but I was able to report the earnings from that Ethereum from at their price earlier, right? And that's why we do it that way. Kirby says, outside of tech, Darrow HE solo mining can be a few bucks a day for a 12-core CPU. Interesting. Darrow. What is Darrow HE? I'll have to add it to my list. Aggregator Visual says, at Son of a Tech, would you ever consider using something like unminable versus incurring taxes on swaps, etc.? If not, why? Well, I mean, because I'm probably not going to, like, first of all, you can use 2 miners and get Bitcoin, right? And I'm more of a Bitcoin maximalist at this point, like we've talked about. Other than that, it depends on what you're swapping for. I guess if you're going to swap for a USD token, that might be something that would be beneficial, possibly for taxes, etc., specifically capital gains. But in most cases, like, for example, because I'm just paying bills with that converted cryptocurrency, most of the time it does end up coming out in total as a loss, right? So there's that too. It all depends on when you sell, etc. Tatone says, ask Son of a Tech, do you use low power mode on T-Rex? I don't use T-Rex right now except for on one rig, and it's still kind of been a little iffy. Mr. the Jackal says, ask Son of a Tech, Amy additional comment on ETH 2.0 is dead. Twitter conversation with Bitsby tripping. Any additional comment on ETH 2.0 is dead. Well, obviously people in general, I think, will take, look, it's weird because of this. I understand that my opinion being I guess, it's not an opinion. That's the frustrating thing about this is I have posted proof of them rebranding it. I have clarified why they rebranded it. And there just seems to be this weird argument that doesn't even need to be an argument because it's true. Ethereum is not, ETH 2.0 is not a thing anymore. Ethereum rebranded that so that they could separate the difference between the consensus layer and the execution layer because they aren't going to be able to scale the execution layer in the same manner that they previously were going to do it. Now, I think that there are some ego issues going on there, not wanting to step down and say, okay, yeah, maybe we shouldn't use ETH 2.0. Now, I get Bitsby Trippin's point that it's just semantics as far as the naming, the rebranding, but I think it's an important semantic. I don't think it's a semantic. I think it's an important distinction between ETH 2.0 and Ethereum, primarily because what that does is that allows people to understand that what ETH said that they were going to do with this change is no longer being done. So I think the rebranding is extremely important because what they said they were going to do is not what they're doing, and that is marked by the rebranding of Ethereum 2.0. So I completely disagree with that as far as that goes. That doesn't mean that I don't respect Bitsby tripping or anything like that. I'm just saying that I disagree, and I think that it is an important distinction because it lets people know that Ethereum is not doing what they want or what they said with ETH 2.0. Hawk Crypto Mining, $10 says, going immersion with GPU and ASICs soon. Congratulations. Florida is terrible with salt, humidity, and dust. Off-topic question, have you ever played StarCraft? I know you like gaming. Yes, sir. I have played a lot of StarCraft. I played ladder on StarCraft 2 even for a long time. C-Script says, Ask Tech, in your opinion, what crypto has the best argument for a superior payment platform? Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, or Bitcoin with Lightning Network? Probably would go with Bitcoin with Lightning Network, good sir. Pohig Mining says, Ask Tech, Woot, new high score on the electric bill, $984 US. Move it on up. Daniel Ring says, Ask Tech, what is the power difference for mining on a CPU for just versus just running a rig? So the thing would be is like, it's typically going to be around 100 watts, right? 100 to 120 watts, somewhere around there. There's a little bit more that would go into that. Like obviously if you're going to throw a Pentium into a mining rig, that's going to have even lower power consumption, right? Than if you were to throw a Ryzen CPU in there. So it may be a little, I think 80 to 120, somewhere in there, watts. The Drum says, Ask Tech, can Hivon become more profitable than PPL and S-Pool? Is it possible? It's possible when we are seeing the kind of side movement that we're seeing right now. I think so. Black Cat Crypto says, Ask Tech, do you use any riserless motherboards? If so, which ones? Yeah, we have a few, but it's like the Octo Miner. There's another kind of off-brand riserless motherboard, like server case combo that we have. And then I do have an ASRock H510, but I haven't put that together yet. ACQ says, Ask Tech, you have some different views than me, and that's great, and has nothing to do with the good info you provide. Yeah, no worries, man. Raymond says, Ask Tech is $5,650 US, a good price for a new Avalon A1285 terahash. That sound, I mean, for the terahash per dollar, that sounds right about right, I think. Right around $6,000 is what you'd pay for the 85 terahash models. Is it super good? No, but is it what you would expect someone to ask? Yes. Jason Rody says, Ask Tech, can you upload CSV files from pools to get better pay scale like you can upload CSV files from exchanges and wallets? You mean for Bitcoin.tax and stuff? Yeah, you can. Boy Matthew says, Ask Tech, does mining income will only be taxed if it hits your wallet? Well, you track it via your wallet. Honda Land says, Ask Tech, do you see Ethereum price falling once proof of stake happens? Seems it will be less profitable once set to proof of stake. Well, it's clearly going to be less profitable when you're staking than when you're mining. That's the whole point. They feel like they're overpaying for security. That being said, initially the price will go up because people will be excited. So leading all the way up to it, the price will go up. People will be purchasing more staking options. That staking, the withdrawal for staking, it will be disabled directly after the merge. Therefore, people will not be able to actually pull out their Ethereum. So it will probably remain high until they allow withdrawals on their staking. And then I would see a potential crash after that. Albeit it could even happen earlier if something really bad with the merge happens, right? C-Script says, Ask Tech, thanks for all you do. Thanks for watching, man. We have another super chat from Christian, $9.99. Thank you for the super chat. Says, much love from us at GPU Mining of Oklahoma on Facebook. We share your content all the time. Thanks for watching. Thanks for sharing the content. That is much appreciated, and I hope that we can continue to all grow and succeed together. John Bronson says, Ask Tech, I have a 1070 that is displaying rainbow colors and died. Never had temp problems before. Any ideas what it could be? I mean, it's going to be heat temperature or some sort of failure, man. You could try to take it apart and reapply thermal paste and thermal pads and see if that helps fix it. And maybe it is overheating on a certain section that is not being tracked by software. Daniel Ring says, Ask Tech, doesn't saying ETH 2.0 just bring to light the failed promises of ETH devs? Kind of like throwing it in their face. if you're going to make the distinction that ETH 2.0 isn't a thing anymore, if we're just going to pretend that the merge is ETH 2.0, then I have a problem. Because ETH 2.0 is not, the merge is not ETH 2.0. ETH 2.0 isn't coming. And then we need to clarify that that's because essentially you're not going to have a scaling execution layer at the launch. Mike Wright says, Tech, do you not care for the Bitcoin S37 board? Seems to be the most cost-effective board. I don't know anything about the S37. Ty Hoon says, Tech, in 2024, will Ethereum Classic reach $500 per coin? Why would you do price predictions? Go watch one of those channels that gets you to lose money, like, I don't know, Altcoin Daily or BitBoy Crypto. Boy Matthew says, Tech, so basically mining income is not taxable if you still in your pool wallet. No, it would definitely still be taxable because that's still a wallet address that you're getting paid out to. Kirby the Kirby says, Tech, Darrow HE is a new fork of Darrow. Covered it last week. Still in solo mining. 12 core CPU, 3900, 5900X can hit a few blocks a day. All right, I'm adding it to my list. It's fine. Darrow HE. I don't see Darrow HE, just Darrow. I'll try to look at it more. Massless Ninja says, Tech, please elaborate on core degradation from mining Ravencoin. You're using about a dozen 3070s, and I'm curious if you've seen degradation on those models. I have not mined with 3070s on Ravencoin, primarily due to the fact that it is significantly more beneficial to mine on Ethereum with those right now. That being said, the reason the core degradation happens, and you need to be careful, is you have thermal paste on the CPU core, and that dries up quite quickly, especially in warm temperatures. And you have essentially a problem where there's heat, obviously, is the biggest killer. But if you have like reboots and stuff on the rigs and the core is really hot and it's not cooling down fast enough and the fans are shutting down, you're basically degrading the core, and what that requires is more voltage being pushed to the core. Will that happen on every GPU? Not necessarily. Is it more likely on the 3000 series GPUs? I would say yes, just because, like, as we were talking about earlier, they do have those high power spikes, and it'll be even more noticeable, like we were talking about earlier, on the 4000 series and 7000 series, or basically ATX 3.0 PSUs, I think, as well, because it's going to be so much more power going into it and then coming out of it in microseconds, which can definitely spike temperatures and cause a lot of issues later on down the line. This is going to be, I think, while we move from memory intensive algorithms over to algorithms that include core, I think that a lot of infrastructure providers for cryptocurrency, specifically like GPU mining and so on, are going to experience a lot of growing pains. I think they're going to experience a lot more dead hardware, and it's going to be difficult getting through this unless, of course, we have more memory intensive algorithms that become available and successful. Kirby the Kirby says, Tech, it's the same HE, it's just the new algo fork. Got it. Okay. The hard part with NVIDIA too, and you'll start to notice it, which I need to clarify. I know, like, the 2080 Ti's I've seen get the core degradation from Flux, it's a lot more noticeable. It's a lot more noticeable on AMD cards because you can set that core voltage within like Hive OS or even Windows or whatnot. On the 3000 series, you can't set voltages in the mass majority unless you have like a high-end like Kingpin GPU. So where you'll start noticing the problem is essentially your power consumption is going to start creeping up. And why your power consumption is creeping up is because the voltage to the core is creeping up. And the voltage to the core is creeping up because essentially core degradation means that the core needs a little bit more power just to maintain its baseline of clocks. Ty says, Ask Simon Tech in 2024, Ethereum Classic next, 5th inning. Yep, it's next week. And in the same year with Bitcoin halving, 5/5 of 2024. Oh, you're saying in 2024, Ethereum Classic halving and Bitcoin halving. Or 5th inning and halving. I think the Bitcoin halving is the big one that affects price, right? All right, so on the poll, you guys said 57% said the Binance swastika was intentional, and 43% said no, it was not intentional. Pretty split decision there, but a lot of people perceiving this as an intentional release from Binance. Kind of interesting. I'm going to call it for today. Be sure to hit the like, comment, subscribe button down below. And I will see you next Tuesday.